Hello and welcome to the So What podcast, in which political economic analyst JP Landman discusses the issues uppermost in the minds of South Africans. You can find a written version of this content on JP's website, jplandman.co.za. I am Ruda Landman and I am your host. Hello, and once again, a very warm welcome to the So What podcast. This one goes with JP's newsletter dated the 27th of July, 2026. And the heading is On Satellites, South Africa and Starlink. We have to start with Starlink because they were the first mover in low Earth orbit satellites, right?
Yes, absolutely, Ruda. 7 years ago in 2019, Elon Musk launched the first 60 satellites into low Earth orbit. It was a new thing then. A couple of years later, in 2021, 3 years later, he had 1,500 satellites in orbit, low Earth orbit. And that's when he started launching an internet connection service from the satellites. And by 5 years later, by 2026, Starlink has got 10,000 satellites in orbit, and it provides an internet connection in more than 150 countries across the world with some 9 million subscribers.
Are there other players?
Yes, I think it's important. Look, there's no question. Elon Musk and Starlink are the market leaders. They were the first movers, and they are by far the brand name which is really widely recognized. But yes, there are other players. The first one is Amazon. Jeff Bezos. He launched Amazon Leo. He launched it also in 2019 when Elon Musk started. He called his company then Kuiper. Kuiper is the name of a star constellation very far into the universe.
It's not the Northern Cape municipality.
No, it's not a Northern Cape municipality. But he changed that name later from Kuiper to Amazon Leo, presumably because he wanted to capitalize, or he wants to capitalize on the brand name Amazon. So Amazon Leo, Amazon Low Earth Orbit, is also a company that is being set up, but it's not operating yet. They've got regulatory approval to broadcast in Nigeria, in the UK, and of course the United States. And very recently they've announced that they're coming to South Africa in 2027. Well, they're already here, but they will make the service will be available by 2027. So yes, Amazon Leo is one competitor. So from the US you have two. You have Starlink and Amazon Leo.
And China, surely they are also playing in this field?
Absolutely. There are already 6 Chinese companies busy with low Earth orbit satellites, but 2 of them really stand out as the 2 most important ones. The one is called the Space Sail, or the Thousand Sails constellation. The other one is called China Satellite Network Group, also known as Guowang. Now, they only started in 2024, but they took off much, much faster. And between them, they will probably have 25,000 low Earth satellites in low Earth orbit by 2030. The one company, Space Sail, is already operating in China, of course, in Brazil and in Kazakhstan. And the service will be rolled out in 5 more countries. Neither of the companies operate in South Africa, but what has come out in the recent arguments that there were about the Resolve Communications and the DA and so on, Communications Minister Solly Malatsi, who is also a DA minister, has revealed in legislation that many people, including China Satellite Network Group, has been in contact with him, has come to see him to talk about the industry. So it looks as if that company may come into South Africa.
What's happening in Europe?
Europe is very interesting. There was a company called OneWeb who launched its first low Earth orbit satellites also in 2019. And then by 2023, they merged with another European company called Eutelsat. And now you have Eutelsat OneWeb. Now, the point is OneWeb does low Earth orbit satellites, and Eutelsat does what you can call high Earth orbit satellites or geosatellites, geostationary satellites. The difference being that low Earth satellites are between 450 and 600 kilometers above Earth, and the geosatellites are sitting in a stationary position at 36,000 miles. So there's a big difference. And Eutelsat OneWeb offers both those services. For the satellite sitting at 36,000 kilometers, but also for the ones sitting at 500-600 kilometers from Earth.
Why is this coming into being? Why do we have low Earth orbit satellites?
Well, the main thing is it cuts the cost of satellite communication enormously. Satellite communication or internet connection via satellites have been with us for a long time, but it's very expensive. The point about low Earth orbit satellites is they've cut that cost by between 60 and 70%. That's the big differentiator. And the reason why we use satellite communication is in remote areas where you don't have fiber lines and in remote areas where you don't have strong cell phone towers or no cell phone towers. It is the only way of establishing internet connection. So it's about isolated places, rural areas, high seas, that sort of thing. And it's about getting it at a cost which is reasonable.
What are the business models? How do the satellite services reach their customers?
Basically two models. The first one is the Starlink model. They sell directly to end customers. So you buy a satellite dish from them and they broadcast directly to your satellite dish in your house or in your office or wherever you are, and you are in connection. The other model is where satellite providers like Eutelsat and Amazon Leon and so on make space available on their satellites. They rent it out to what you can call a wholesaler, and the wholesaler then sells it to the retailer, to you and me. So it's two different models. The one is direct and the other one is via a middle company. Now, Starlink is the only one with a direct service to retail customers. The other work through what I would call wholesale companies.
How does it compare with fiber?
Well, look, fiber is much cheaper and fiber can carry a much bigger volume. So in cities and in towns and between towns where you have fiber lines, that is what you will go for. But where you don't have fiber lines, and as I've said, where you don't have cell phone towers or not reliable cell phone towers, there it is cheaper. No, not cheaper, but it's better to go to satellite technology.
Like, as you said, on the high seas.
On the high seas, and there's a very interesting example about that, which we will come to. But in South Africa's context, basically rural areas far away from the city centers, outside towns, that's where you want to use a satellite connection.
Do we know anything about price points yet?
Not for Starlink, because they haven't published anything in South Africa. But what we do know is that in neighboring Eswatini, you can buy at an initial cost, you can buy a modem or a receiver for, I think it's about $6,500. And after that, you pay, I think, 900 Rand a month for the ongoing service. So that is there. The other company that does operate in South Africa is QCon, and they work through Eutelsat and OneWeb Eutelsat. They don't have retail packages available. They will quote you whatever your needs are and where you are and so on, and then give you a price.
So it will settle over time. We don't really know yet.
It will settle over time, and as more people enter, you will get more competition and hopefully better price points.
So, what is the situation in the South African market at the moment? Who are already here, and who can we expect?
Yeah, there's really, the bottom line is at the moment there is only available Eutelsat OneWeb. They've got low Earth orbit satellites, and they work through a couple of South African companies. The most important ones is called QCon, which is based in Centurion. And they have linked up with a UK company, Avanti, and they get their satellite feed from Eutelsat OneWeb, and they sell it here in South Africa. Now, what is interesting about QCon is that they've already connected a primary healthcare clinic in Limpopo in a very isolated spot. So that clinic has now got internet connection, which other people in the area won't have. They have also connected some SPAR stores and some SPAR distribution centers and given them internet connection. And they are giving what is called a backhaul service to MTN in rural areas. Basically, a backhaul service is just where the MTN towers are not strong enough. Then they give a backhaul, a backup service to make the signal better for people who connect via MTN to the internet. So QCon, in cooperation with Avanti, is operating in South Africa. Avanti is very ambitious. They have an office here, they have staff here, and they want to expand their footprint, and we will probably hear more from them. But there are also other companies. Two others are Seacom and Paratus. Seacom is known for the undersea cable that connects South Africa to Europe and the outside world. But because there are now so many of those cables, they want to expand their business and also provide an internet connection service to some of their clients. And Paratus does the same thing. They operate in Africa south of the equator. They use the UTEL OneWeb satellites, and they sell the internet connection to customers in Southern Africa.
What about Amazon Leo?
Yeah, that's the big announcement that came through a week or two ago. Amazon Leo in South Africa is teaming up with a company called Herotel. Now, Herotel is part of Massive. Massive is a subsidiary of Remgro and Vodacom. All the fiber interests of Vodacom and Remgro are located in Massive. They took over Herotel. Competition Commission agreed to that. And Herotel has got a unique approach. They focus on rural areas and isolated areas. And so they are servicing at the moment something like 550 towns in South Africa through 120 offices. I assume it will be small operations, it won't be big offices, but their footprint is rural and the isolated areas of South Africa. So that fits the Amazon Leo business model perfectly. And they've now teamed up. You can start registering to get the service from them now in 2026, but the service will only become effective or only become operational next year in 2027.
So the bottom line is that Eutelsat OneWeb is currently really the only active LEO network supplier in South Africa, and Amazon Leo through Herotel will be with us soon.
Yes, that's the bottom line.
Why is Starlink not yet operating in South Africa? We hear a lot of noise, but it's often not very clear for the casual reader.
No, indeed. Starlink hasn't applied for a license yet. That's the first point. To operate as an internet provider via satellite, you need a license from all territories. It's not a South African thing. And they haven't applied for a license. Now, the reason they haven't applied for a license, we think, is because of BE requirements. And the position is fairly simple. The Electronics Communication Act, which dates from the 1990s, requires a 30% black shareholding. Now, the government has made attempts to make it easier for foreign companies. And what they do is you've got an equity equivalent investment program, which means you don't have to give up equity, but you've got to do other spending. You must make other investments, which will help transformation. Now, Amazon, for example, has got a level 1 BEE rating. Microsoft has got a level 1 BEE rating. But other non-US companies like Samsung from Korea, Huawei from China and so on, also have 1 and 2 BEE ratings. And the way that they can get it is by spending money. They can overcome this 30% black equity requirement. So that avenue may be open to Starlink, but I think the real problem there is, although these things are provided for in government BEE codes, you have a piece of legislation, the Electronic Communications Act, which says, you must have 30%. And a government regulation in a government gazette cannot rank higher than an act of parliament. So you'll have to change the act. And so far, the Minister of Communications has not sent an amendment act to Parliament yet. So that thing is in limbo.
So Amazon Leo will also not be able to get it?
No, but they are teaming up with Herotel. They're teaming up with a local company. And that's the second way that Starlink could do it. They could team up with a local company like Amazon Leo has done and like Herotel OneWeb has done. But I think the problem there is because they're selling directly to the end customer, it may not suit them to work through another company, to go through another company. I don't know, but I would think that would be the case. So that is, I think, basically why Starlink is not here.
So you can kind of bypass the BEE requirements with the other investment. What is it called?
Equity Equivalent Investment Program.
That one. But not if you're an internet provider. because then you're dealing with the other act.
Correct. But the way then to bypass it is to take a South African company,
A South African,
a South African partner. And that apparently Starlink doesn't want to do.
What's happening in other African countries?
Well, it's very interesting. In Namibia, for example, they also have a requirement. They go further than the 30%. They say 51% of the shares in a satellite license must be held by Namibians. A foreigner can only hold 49%. So Starlink has applied for a license in Namibia. It was turned down for that reason. There was then a public outcry, petitions, and so on and so forth, but the decision stands. So Starlink can't operate in Namibia, more or less for the same reasons. In Ghana, Starlink has operated for, I think, the last 2 years already. They have a license there, but the Ghanaian authorities have now given them notice that they must take Ghanaian partners, find some kind of a partner company in Ghana, otherwise the license will be cancelled. Zimbabwe is on the other end of the spectrum. They just gave Starlink a license without any local shareholding requirements, and Starlink is available in Zim.
You say that satellite networks have become a geopolitical issue. Why?
Two reasons, two examples rather. One happened in February last year when Reuters reported that in the negotiations between Ukraine and the United States government on the minerals deal with Ukraine, the American negotiators said to the Ukrainians, if you don't agree to this deal, we're cutting off Starlink. Now, Starlink, as you know, is playing a critical role in Ukraine's military operations against the Russian invasion. So they're really dependent on Starlink. Elon Musk did deny the report. He did deny the report. But I think what the incident illustrates is that you are vulnerable. And the Americans are known as hardball negotiators, and it's very conceivable that that kind of power can be used. So that's the one example. The other more recent one is there's a French shipping company called CMA-CGM. They operate 350 ships on the high seas, and they want to connect all their ships to satellite internet connection. And they've signed two contracts. The one is with Starlink, and the other one is with Eutelsat to provide low Earth orbit internet connections. And they argue that they will run with both systems for 2 years to see which one serves them best. If you have ships going all over the world, you want to make sure that they're connected all the time. But apart from running with two systems to choose the best one, they also said they don't want to be dependent on just one provider in case that provider decides to cut off the service, and then your ships are stranded, so to speak.
A lot of information.
Yes, it is a dense topic. A lot of work went into it. But it's a fascinating topic because it deals with technology. It deals with the internet, which is so important in all our lives. Politics, technology, geopolitics, it's all in there. And that's why I thought it's a topic which may be of interest.
In summary, so what?
Well, I think what one can say is that the arrival of low Earth orbit satellites have changed the game as far as satellite connection for the internet is concerned. Lowers the cost immensely. It is much more reliable, and the latency, the time that it takes to send the signal up and down, is much better than with satellites higher up in the air. But the cost is the big thing. It is a very valuable service to have in remote areas, and therefore in South Africa, for example, it speaks obviously that huge parts of South Africa will benefit, which do not benefit now from fiber or cell tower connection. Starlink was the first large LEO operator, but it's no longer the only one. There's competition in the US from Amazon, but there's also competition from Europe, and as we've discussed, competition from China. And it's particularly Chinese companies that are moving very aggressively and very fast. So for me, the issue is not whether Starlink is here or not. The issue is whether South Africa can have access to low Earth orbit satellite technology. That's the issue. And then with that, what are the prices? Is it affordable so that rural South Africa can buy into it? That's really, I think, the key issue. The key issue is not which company. The issue is the availability of the technology. There's no question that LEO networks in South Africa will increase rural access to the internet, and that will be good for everybody. And the more players we can have giving that service or rendering that service, the better the prices will become.
Do you think that one single clinic in Limpopo is a forerunner of things to come?
I certainly hope so. And yes, I think so, because nothing succeeds like success. When I'm quite sure in that particular area, people will start going to the clinic so that they can connect to the internet. And that's the way that it spreads.
Thank you very much. Fascinating.
Thank you.
To our listeners, go well until we speak again. Thank you for listening to the So What podcast. If you enjoy this content, please don't forget to leave a review and a rating, and please consider subscribing so you don't miss any future episodes. Also, tell your friends. Remember, you can find a written version of all JP's content at jplandman.co.za.